just like a brief introduction to simulation education. So all the subject, I have to do this disclaimer that everything I got from here is from this like course for Centers of Medical Simulation at Harvard University. So some theories behind simulation education. And this, even though I've been doing sim labs like for a while now, I never thought of it like this. Simulation is truly about the thought process. Okay, it's, the medical content is there, right? Like we'll go over like, ACLS or, severe sepsis or DK. But really the point of simulation is to break down the thought process of your learner. Okay, so for example, everyone knows, right? 16, boom, it's so automatic for us. And that's the same as when we go into a code or we see a sick patient, everything is automatic for us. So for our learners, we want to break it down just like you would for a second grader. 4 groups of 4 equals 16, right? So that's what the point of simulation kind of is, to break down the thought process. So same thing here, right? The proof. This is what we want to kind of extract from people. When we do the simulation, they're going to go in. Some people may like you guys are going to just like swim through this real fast and be done. So I won't have to do a lot of like extraction from you guys. Like, what were you thinking? How did you arrive to your conclusion? But for the new people, like for interns, we want to say, hey, so to see if there's a medical, knowledge gap that they don't know, to try to fix that, like, during the debriefing part. So this slide, this whole presentation they did, I was just really, we know this, we kind of know this, the results are from actions and actions are from what we're thinking, right? Like managing expectations, meet the patient where they're coming from, etc. with, your patient satisfaction. So we have an idea of this, but I just felt it was worth spending some time with this. So for example, if somebody gave, morphine to somebody, and then they became hypotensive, that's your result. The action was given the morphine. And then the frames, this is where we as teachers, educators need to kind of figure out why did they do this, right? So there are a couple of things that they broke down, like they were assuming, okay, I give pain medicine, they'll feel better, that's it. Feelings, they had a goal, some rules, maybe they didn't know that you give morphine and their blood pressure is gonna drop. Situation awareness and influence of context. So this is kind of where, this area, the frames, is where we want to kind of really try to figure out where did the simulation part go good or bad, and kind of talk to them about that. So for example, you have this picture, they gave this to us. We have the end action, result, that the donkey's in the air. The action was that they overloaded, this. So what were some of their thoughts? They thought maybe, can you guys give an example why you would think that they would do this? Yeah, to get done quicker. So their goals, right? They had a goal, right? They thought that, or they assumed that the donkey could handle that much. Maybe the donkey got scared of something and he just kind of jumped up, who knows, right? So anyway, that is kind of like where we want to go back and see what was the learner thinking. Another, this was again like a whole day about like cognitive load. How much do you want to test your learner, right? So our interns, or like as we're saying, our students, med students or the high school students, we just want to kind of break it up into something simple, chest compressions, right? Like that's what we're going to teach them in simulation. So this would be kind of what they call zone 1, like procedures, chest compression, suturing, and even communication skills, like how to de-escalate somebody that's mad, right? That's also a skill that would be considered in simulation. One guy was doing his project on falls, like, I don't know like how, but he's doing a simulation about falls. So he was going to present videos. So that would be also kind of a zone 1 type of simulation. And then zone 2 and 3 is more thinking, cognitive load, like you're the code leader. And so you would kind of go in and try to assess their thinking about how are they running this code, dealing with angry family members during the code, team communications and such. So when we do the simulations, that's kind of also what we want to kind of see is where is this falling into. The other like topic they talked about, like again, half a day about psychological safety. And so basically whenever somebody comes into simulation, you want that everyone, and they did this for us too, that everyone participating in the activities is intelligent, capable, and cares about doing their best and wants to improve. So there's no like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this, why'd you do that? Like, in a demeaning way. So you just want to show basic respect. The last part was debriefing with good judgment. This was another kind of theory that they presented. And basically debriefing is the end, right? This is where the most of the education will happen. So you go in, you're going to introduce your topic, you're going to do the simulation, and then you're going to sit down with them for about 15-20 minutes. And this is where the education will happen. So they want you to just kind of be, you know, respectful, of course. And they want, I guess what can happen with simulation, what's happened in the past is that, and this has happened with me because I didn't have these kind of like topics to go through or like an outline to go through. You'll just go in and you'll be like, oh, you know, why'd you do that? Or make a list of errors that they did. You know, okay, you should have, you know, maybe given them like pain medicine before you decide to like cardio work them or whatever, you know what I mean? So instead of making a list of errors, you just want to kind of pick one thing, go over it, and then like move on to the next thing. So they gave us like kind of an out frame of this, and I can do a whole different presentation or just send it out on PowerPoint when we get to that point when we do simulation labs about how to debrief our students. So
one thing that I always find is helpful, like at that point, that I always ask like residents or other learners to do sit with them, is the first thing I always ask them is ask them how they
yes, yes,
I find is like
exactly.
An icebreaker, like
right.
You know, tell me what you thought. Because a lot of people are aware of like, oh, I should have done that or
yes.
whatever, just to give them space to communicate their own kind of self-evaluation. I just always look like a good way to start.
Absolutely, yeah, and they actually have this whole like worksheet, and I can do this like for as a second like send out or whatever for this because the debriefing is like so long. We spent like 2.5 days about how to do it like appropriately, but yeah, they actually said this. You just finished taking care of, you know, XYZ. How are you feeling right now? Like that's the first question you're supposed to ask, and then they also asked us not to be like, oh, good job, guys, you know, because then they'll be like, oh, I did a good job, you know, and not maybe be as responsive to what you're going to say next. And then they gave us kind of like a breakdown of what to say. So as far as like, you're going to preview the topic, you're going to say, I saw, and you should objectively say like, okay, I saw you, you know, like put the needle down, you know, on the unsterile field, right? Like something that you could, if you were videotaping them, you could say, hey, you did this. And so, and then you can go into, I think, you know, I don't think that's a good idea because now you've contaminated your sterile field or your procedure. And then kind of make your educational point kind of like, you know, balled into that statement there. The other thing is managing expectations, right? Like, so you guys are here, I want to manage your expectations. So we do that with the pre-brief, right? So what we're going to do right now, oh, sorry. I'm, I think my son got into that one. Okay. The objectives, sorry about that. Yeah, so the objectives really are to familiarize you guys to simulation education into SimLab and just to kind of put you through one thing that our residents will be going through. And then the second, and this is the pre-brief part, is to demonstrate stabilization of a pediatric patient. So kind of to give you an idea of what you're going into. The environment is just going to be a simulated emergency room. Of course, we have to be confidential, right? Like the performance of your peers. So I can't be like, oh my God, Bunting, how did you not know this was, you know, like blah, blah, blah. No. The content of the debriefings, details of the case, and just whatever stays in the room, in the simulation room should stay here. We shouldn't talk about it, you know, outside or like, you know, try to make fun of people. So, and then roles, like, you know, just kind of, I'm going to be like kind of facilitating, you know, I'll be there in the room with you guys. You guys will just have this patient and you'll be taking care of them like you would in, you know, upstairs in the ER. So I hope this makes sense. I hope I'm not going through this because there's just so much information that, but I just wanted to kind of touch base with all of that. The fiction contract, let us engage your imagination, right? This is what Leo would always say to our people during the interviews about this. So basically we're going to ask them, like the residents, and I'm going to ask you guys, right? We're going to walk into this room. It's going to be a plastic doll there. I'm going to ask you to imagine that this is a real baby because the vitals, the case scenario, the medical management will all be real. Okay. And we'll go over the weirdness. Like, okay, so for example, this baby we're going to walk into, you can only feel the pulse in the left arm. There are no other places where you can feel the pulse. If you have to attach pads or if you have to do that, you have to snap them. Obviously, the intubation won't be the same, etc. So if we end up, you know, end up intubating, whatever. The actual simulation, you should have just clear objectives and goals. So for you guys, it's just to get you formalized and then go over this case. And then you just want to pick 2 or 3 points because For example, the one case that I presented to them that I wanted to go over with some of our residents that were coming in was like a pediatric fall, okay? And I had like 7 objectives. Like I wanted them to do a chest tube, I wanted them intubate, I wanted them to do chest compressions, and I wanted them to deal with the family members, and they were like, that's too much. You got to only pick 1 or 2 things, you focus on that, and then you move on to the rest of the team, and then you can, maybe address it. So debriefing with good judgment. This is, as Dr. Dunn was alluding to, kind of, you want to have kind of a standardized outline of what you're going to say, and I can send that out later. This is a whole topic in itself, so I didn't want to spend too much time with that. But I'll be using this like cheat sheet that they gave me, so that's why when I'm talking to you guys, you'll just see me because I haven't, memorized any of this yet. And then, of course, whenever you're done with the case, this is the debriefing part. You want to kind of give them an idea and focus your conversation into one topic. It should be free of judgment, focus. So for example, I want to talk about closed loop communication. So you're going to start off with that after you ask them how they were feeling. I saw, you would just example, I saw you give antibiotics before the blood culture was drawn. Okay, so I saw you do that. I think that you'll have more accurate culture reports if the cultures are drawn before antibiotics are given. This is your point of view. This is the teaching point. This is where you want to do whatever teaching you want to do. So it is not so, okay, Roger Lewis, you did this. No, it's more broad. It's more, out there, and you're broadening the view. So, and then I wonder, kind of like, what was on your mind? What were you thinking? Can you explain, what happened in there more? So that way they can kind of talk to you, and then you can, fix or, try to help them, guide them, whatever is happening. So these were just kind of the basic things. So there's a lot more about debriefing that I would like to talk to you guys about like later on. And I can just send it out as a PowerPoint or whatever, and send out some of the worksheets that they gave when we do simulations. So